God made a law for them, and it's based on this problem. 6:13, Deuteronomy. Fear the Lord your God, serve him only, and take your oaths in his name. Do not follow other gods, the gods of the people around you. For the Lord your God, who is among you, is a jealous God, and his anger will burn against you, and he will destroy you from the face of the land. Do not test the Lord your God as you did at Massah. Be sure to keep the commands of the Lord your God and the stipulations and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in the Lord's sight, so that it may go well with you, and you may go in and take over the good land that the Lord promised on oath to your forefathers, thrusting out all your enemies before you, as the Lord said. This is why the law is made, because of what you did at Massah. What? You made a law against them. You're gonna make the deal stipulate on me? No. I'm the one that sets how everything goes. I set all of the descriptions, all the definitions, all of the requirements of the deal. That's what God is telling you. You do what is right in my eyes. I'm not going to do what's right in your eyes. You wanted water, I gave you water, and yet you grumbled. You made a deal, you broke it. Continues, Psalm 78, 40 through 72. Lots of reading, less preaching at the end. Psalm 78, 40 through 72. It is on page 618. Raise your hand if you're there.
Psalm 78.
Psalm 78. What verse?
Oh yeah, you're right. It's on both. My bad. 6:17 is where it begins.
Okay.
All right.
40?
We're starting at 40. And this is a psalm that's coming from Asaph. Asaph. He led all the music and things like that. And this is what happens. He decided to write a song about Massah. How often they rebelled against him in the desert and grieved him in the wasteland. Again and again they put God to the test. They vexed the Holy One of Israel. They vexed the Holy One of Israel with all their tests. Not good. They did not remember his power, the day he redeemed them from the oppressor, the day he displayed his miraculous signs in Egypt, his wonders in the region of Zoan. He turned their rivers to blood. They could not drink from their streams. He sent swarms of flies that devoured them, and frogs that devastated them. He gave their crops to the grasshopper, their produce to the locust. He destroyed their vines with hail, and their sycamore figs with sleet. He gave over their cattle to the hail, their livestock to bolts of lightning. He unleashed against them his hot anger, his wrath, indignation, and hostility. A band of destroying angels. He prepared a path for his anger. He did not spare them from death, but gave them over to the plague. He struck down all the firstborn of Egypt, the first fruits of manhood in the tents of Ham. But he brought people out like a flock. He fled them like sheep through the desert. He guided them safely, so they were unafraid. But the sea engulfed their enemies. Thus he brought them to the border of his holy land, to the hill country his right hand had taken. He drove out nations before them and allotted their lands to them as an inheritance. He settled the tribes of Israel in their homes. But they put God to the test and rebelled against the Most High. They did not keep his statutes. Like their fathers, they were disloyal and faithless, as unreliable as a faulty bow. They angered him with their high places. They aroused his jealousy with their idols. When God heard them, he was very angry. He rejected Israel completely. He abandoned the tabernacle of Shiloh, the tent he had set up among men. He sent the ark of his might into captivity, his splendor into the hands of the enemy. He gave his people over to the sword. He was very angry with his inheritance. Fire consumed their young men, and their maidens had no wedding songs. Their priests were put to the sword, and their widows could not weep. Then the Lord awoke from sleep, as a man wakes from the stupor of wine. He beat back his enemies. He put them to the everlasting shame. Then he rejected the tents of Joseph. He did not choose the tribe of Ephraim, but he chose the tribe of Judah, Mount Zion, which he loved. He built his sanctuary like the heights, like the earth that he established forever. He chose David his servant and took him from the sheep pens. From tending the sheep he brought him to be the shepherd of his people, Jacob, of Israel his inheritance. And David shepherded them with integrity of heart, with skillful hands. He led them. Stop there. There's plenty of other verses. I have verses from Matthew 4:7, Luke 4:12, 1 Corinthians 10:9, 2 Corinthians 13:5, and Matthew 7:22. The Matthew and Luke deals with Christ when he's tempted by Satan. And you know what he says to him? It also says, do not test the Lord your God. And he remembers it, and he knows it. You don't make deals with God. Because Satan's trying to make him a deal. If you just worship me, I will give you all of the lands that you see from this mountainside. And Jesus said, you're not making deals with me. I'm not going to do this. And he says, don't test the Lord your God. Don't be making these deals. 1 Corinthians, you know what 1 Corinthians brings up? Messiah. He talks about Messiah and what they did in Messiah and how God struck the rock. He gave them water and they still grumbled and complained. They made this deal with God. They make this covenant with God. They ask God for these things. God gives it to them and then they break their promise. They break it. Let's go back to Louis.
Yeah.
Louis was doing well last time we checked in with Louis. But Bobby was testing him. All right? Louis had made this deal. He's going to keep this thing that is completely out of his control. Especially with his personality. So, Bobby goes through all this and Louis comes out. He has to turn and he winces every once in a while. And he's trying to struggle with it. But he says, Bobby, that's okay. I'm just glad you're safe. And then he goes back in the cage. And Bobby's over talking to Alex. He goes, Alex, he actually did it. Alex said, see, I told you. He was going to be able to do it. And Bob goes, yeah, but I didn't expect it. He goes, Louis, I really got to hand it to you. He goes, you made it through that. He goes, but, you know, what's even better? It didn't happen. And Louis just loses it. He goes, oh, that's wonderful. It didn't even happen. You're telling me that the accident, you were testing me? You were trying to see if I would fail? Well, I'm glad that it didn't happen. And all this time he's going over here. Bobby's facing this way. Goes around Bobby. He gets the hook that they put on the cars to lift him up. Puts it on Bobby's belt. What are you doing? I can't believe that you tried to test me. I can't believe you did that. I'm going to give you the worst, smelliest cab that I can ever find. And if there's not a smelly cab that's dirty, I'm going to dirty it and smelly it up before I give it to you. And Louis completely blew his promise. He tested God. He made this deal. But he couldn't live up to it. And Alex goes and talks to him. And he's really shattered. I mean, Louis is really upset. He goes, Alex, I couldn't do it. He goes, I lied to God. I messed it up. I can't do it. And Alex goes, well, Louis, what did you say? What did you say to God? And Louis said, well, I said I'm going to be the best person possible. And Alex goes, no, that's not what you said. He said, what you said was, I'm going to be the best person that I can be. And he said, Louis, maybe you're just not that good of a person. Maybe this is the best you could do. I mean, you tried, you were reserved, but you lost it. He said, I'm sure God understands. God made you this way. I'm sure He understands your weaknesses. I'm sure He understands your difficulties. I'm sure He understands that even though you made this deal, He knew you weren't going to be able to keep it because He knows your personality. And we look back at Israel. And we see that God knew they weren't going to be able to do it because they were men. That's why He gave us the law, so that we would see that we're sinful. He knew we weren't going to be able to live up to it. He just wanted us to see that we can't do it and look to Him.